So let's have a think, Roy, about across the 5 rounds, if we were to draw up our team of the tournament, let's give it a try. Let's try and bring together what we think our team of the tournament would be.
Yeah, okay. Let's have a crack. Shall we just go in order then?
Let's go in order.
All right. I did have attempts at putting this together, but I'm willing to debate some of these positions. I'm not going to die on every hill. Lou said I think Gross was in contention for me, but I've gone with Andrew Porter on this one. I think he's been brilliant.
Yeah,
and he's shown that consistently. He's put so many different facets into his game together, and when Ireland have been good, largely he's been at the centre of it.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. I'd also put an honourable mention in for Fischetti, who I thought for Italy has been really good and really kind of had a high work rate and done a huge amount of work. But I was juggling around Porter, Gross, and Fischetti, and I landed on Porter as well, mainly down to his performance against England in that first round, which I thought he was monumental, and kind of, as we said, that was kind of stamping his ticket to the Lions tour. That performance alone, I felt. So yeah, happy with Porter. Not going to ask you to die on a hill.
Yeah.
How about hooker?
Well, there's a few good options here. I mean, Dan Sheehan had a really good end to the tournament. Obviously, missed the start of it. Mal Vaca, up until the point he went full MMA, was having a really, really good tournament. Dave Cherry, I think, was brilliant for Scotland in probably quite unfancied circumstances, but he was so solid for them. Dave Cherry looks to me like an ex-policeman playing rugby.
Yeah.
Like, those classic old amateur days when there would be more than a few play for the police teams. But for me, the best hooker in the tournament has been Jamie George. Obviously missed the first game, and that showed, I think, in terms of England not being able to kick on in the second half against Ireland. I've been so impressed by him. The bread and butter stuff, line out, scrummaging, set piece work, has been great, but his all-round impact on the pitch, as well as his noticeable impact on that England squad when he came back in, I think he was fundamental to why they were so good.
Yeah.
So he's my pick.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to disagree with you. I wonder whether removing the burden of captaincy has freed him up to go back to what he's really good at.
Well, from what I can see, and he's obviously been quite heavily used in the kind of media appearances, even though he had the captaincy removed. I don't know that he's really changed his approach too much, but other than not having the ultimate, I think he's just got a really good way about him. And I think he's one of those players that players really respond to. You know, you can see the way that Marrow's been asked about him a few times, obviously. And the way that he talks about him, you can just see the impact he's had on him as a bloke.
Yeah.
And he's had plenty of difficulties in the last couple of years from a personal point of view. But he's never dropped his performances for England, and if anything, his performances are getting better.
Yeah. That's why I'm not going to disagree. I think his set piece work, and let's not talk about his work rate around the park and what he does ball in hand. His set piece work is exceptional, and it's obviously a craft he has absolutely worked at over the last decade of professional rugby, and he's got to a point now where he's so dependable in that area. You kind of forget how important that is to have in a player, and I think that's why sometimes he might get almost overlooked for some praise, because it's become what we expect. But it's very easy to forget how much hard work's gone into becoming so dependable on that line-out throw in the scrums. Like, he has honed his craft, and respect for that.
Consummate pro.
Tighthead, I think we're probably going to agree on tighthead here.
Will Stewart, isn't it?
Will Stewart, unquestionably.
The most improved man in English rugby, British rugby.
Yes. For me, this has been a real emergence of a player who's been spoken about really positively by props in the game for a long time. And I've never quite seen it on the pitch myself. But this is the first time consistently in an England shirt where I've just felt that scrum is in safe hands, and this guy can do bits around the park too.
Absolutely. You know, he's now like triple threat prop. So I'm really pleased for him. Really pleased for the way he's developed and that he's getting his flowers. And at a good time when England have got some really exciting props coming through. Good to have someone there who's been around the block a bit, has got the experience, has been through the highs and lows, that can help guide those players.
And he's setting a high bar for them to meet if they want to break into that team. It's not going to be a foregone conclusion anymore.
That jersey is no longer up for grabs. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to take a real hard performance from someone to take the 3 shirt off him, which is great.
Completely agree. Okay, that's our front row locked out of Andrew Porter, Jamie George, and Will Stewart. Let's move on to the engine room in the second row. Who gets your first second row slot?
Maro's just been good all tournament. He's really taken to being captain. His performance levels, I mean, he's been good in every game. You know, there's always questions about his ability to give away a penalty. He lives on the edge, plays a bit on the edge. He's a nuisance. And actually, I still like that about him. And the fact that he's been able to maintain that while still keeping a really good rapport with referees and being really vocal and clear in that relationship with referees. I don't think there's been a better second row in the tournament at all. You know, if you'd only give me one slot, I think he would have been my pick.
Yeah, I'm agreed with you there. I think Itoji's had one of his better extended period of time in a tournament in an England shirt for a while. Captaincy, he's taken to it like a duck to water. He's a real leader, and it has had the effect that I had really hoped it was, that like sometimes in the past he's had discipline issues and be a bit of a penalty magnet. That certainly wasn't the case this tournament. The next lock position, though, is going to be an interesting one, I think, because I've got a bit of an outside pick, but I'm interested to know what your pick is.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm probably still ruminating on this one, really. So this is, again, isn't probably a hill I'm going to die on. So, I mean, Tadhg Beirne's had a good tournament, again, for Ireland, but maybe not been as obviously effective as he has been in previous years. James Ryan's been pretty good, but again, probably without setting the world alight. Cannone was going quite well for Italy, but fell away probably a little bit. For me, it's probably between 2 Frenchmen.
Okay, interesting.
One's Miafu. I know he had one quite poor game, but Miafu's just so effective. And he's just, I mean, you can't miss him on the pitch at the best of times, but he's undeniable. What he does for France in terms of go forward, but his skills as well with the ball, just so central to France getting front foot ball and ultimately what they do in attack. But actually, I think it's the bolter for me, from Guillard.
That's where I'd landed as well.
So impressed by him. Very different type of player to Miafu, but so impressed by him. He has, you know, come out of nowhere a little bit from my point of view. I hadn't seen any of him really beforehand, but I mean, he looks a really exciting prospect for them there. So yeah, BR for me. Yeah,
that was my outside pick that I was going to suggest. The fact that he's now given Galtier the headache of I need to bench Miafu because he's playing too well to drop.
Like Galtier needed another selection headache.
Yeah, so yeah, for me, second row locked in, Itoji and Guillard, and what a second row pairing that would be if that ever was to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, back row, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, tough. It was tough to fit sort of 8 names into 3 here.
Yeah.
So I am going to give you my 3.
Okay.
And then I'm going to just then maybe some honourable mentions. But I'm going to give you my 3. Tom Curry, I think, has been the standout player.
Yeah.
In general, he's just been brilliant.
Yeah.
I think he gets in whatever happens. But I'm putting him at 6. But
okay. He can operate across the back. Yeah.
He's pretty happy anywhere. At 7, I'm putting in Jack Morgan.
Yeah.
Who, you know, obviously had a tough day against England, but I mean, bless him, he can't do it all on his own. And for a lot of this tournament, he's just been phenomenal in very difficult circumstances. In every single game. So impressed by him. He's on that Lions playing for me. Number 8, I'm going with Doris.
Okay.
Aldry nearly pipped it, but I think Doris has been really good again. He's so quietly effective in everything he does, whilst interspersing that with moments of being really loudly effective as well.
Yeah.
Plus he's really handsome. We've spoken about that a lot already, and I'm going to reiterate it. And his leadership, I think, has been really exceptional for Ireland.
Yeah.
So those are my 3. I mean, I'll give you some my honourable mentions, but you know, are there any disagreements?
Once again, somehow we've managed to come to the same conclusion. I think if Aldrit wasn't, if France hadn't adopted the 7-1 split and Aldrit was getting subbed at the 45-minute mark in like the last 3 games, he probably would have worked his way into this for me.
Yeah.
But it kind of felt like France relied on him a little less, so it kind of meant his impact was a bit lesser than it has been in the past. So I lumped on the exact same back row of Tom Curry, Jack Morgan and Caelan Doris, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is a Lions back row we see this summer.
It's an exciting one if it is.
Throw in Jack Willis, but you know, Lions is for another day.
So I have got some honourable mentions for the back row though.
Lovely.
I think there are
Henry Pollock, one of them?
No, not quite.
I suppose
as good a half an hour as it was.
Okay.
Not quite enough to get into my honourable mentions. On the blind side, Jalanche been fantastic for France. Has Kroos, both great options they've got there, frightening options. And Jamie Ritchie for Scotland as well. I think it's been really good when he's been put there. On the loose, Boudon. Again, another player I didn't know a huge amount about before the tournament. If I'm honest, I hadn't seen much of him in club rugby. But, I mean, he's another one who's... The fact that they haven't missed Charles Olivon because they found this guy, it just says a huge amount, Ben Curry and Ben Earl as well, I think deserve to be mentioned for the performances they've been putting in. Ben Earl, I think, back to his best again and looking really, really sharp. And Ben Curry, again, finally getting the recognition he deserves for what a good player he is. I think some of the players that you expect, someone like Van der Fleer, I think, has probably not been his best tournament. Peter O'Mahony obviously got the send-off. If we're being harsh, probably the tournament that shows that maybe this was time to call it a day in terms of what he was doing. Still a warrior, still involved in everything, but not maybe as impactful as he has been in the past. Giroud at back row and centre been really good, but not quite enough for me to get into my team. But Tom Willis as well, I think should just be praised for having a really good impact as an old-fashioned number 8 for England as well. Another option for them to build upon.
Yeah, all those names you mentioned have had very strong tournaments to varying degrees. But I'm happy to lock in Tom Curry, Jack Morgan, Caelan Doris to complete our pack. Now, foregone conclusion in the 9 shirt?
It's Dupont.
It's
always
Dupont.
Dupont.
It's got to be Dupont.
It has to be Dupont. I mean, just run out of things to say about him at this point. I will give honourable mentions to Gibson Park and actually Luca as well, who's been brilliant when called upon. But it's Dupont. It just always is.
Simple, straightforward.
It'll be Dupont even if he's got one leg.
Yeah, which he might do.
Which he does.
Yeah, which he does at the moment. Yeah, so that's quick and easy. The 10 shirt.
It's got to be Finn Smith for me.
Yeah.
I think Prendergast had moments where he looked really good, but moments where he showed that there's some work to do there.
Yeah.
Finn Russell had some moments, but a bit hot and cold. Garbisi, pretty hot and cold. Entermac, if he hadn't got himself sent off in the first game, maybe would have been in with a shout on it. But, that's a big blot against his copybook on this one. Finn Smith just impressed me. I knew he was a good player. I've watched plenty of him for Saints, but the way he's stepped into the international arena and looked at home there and tied together a backline that was not entirely firing to the point that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. I've just been so impressed.
Yeah, once again, unexpectedly, we are agreeing on everything, Rory. Obviously, I was going to land on Finn Smith for many reasons, but ultimately he has been phenomenal, I think, considering his age, his experience in an England shirt, and the backdrop that he was brought into the squad. 100% pure credit to him. His stock has risen tenfold, I imagine. So yeah, that's 9 and 10 locked in. Dupont and Finn Smith, what I'd pay to have that at Northampton Saints.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the centres, 12 and 13.
So I'd locked in Bundyaki as 12 until I watched the Italy-Ireland game. And then it had to be Menoncello again for me.
Yeah.
He was in my honourable mentions immediately, but I thought Bundyaki, it's that picture of him against was it the France game where he's bloodied and he's confident, just that warrior. I love that warrior aspect to him. And he's a player I've always really liked, but he just looks tough as nails.
Yeah.
But Menoncello's performance in that game and in some of Italy's poorer performances for a while, he's still looked class.
Yeah.
And he constantly looks class.
Yeah.
And as a spoiler alert, it's Brex for me at outside centre as well.
Well, Menoncello was a non-negotiable for me. He had to be in that 12 shirt. 13 shirt.
I did ruminate on Hugh Jones.
Hugh Jones, for me, I think would be my pick in the 13 shirt, personally.
I won't die on the hill of Brex, although I think he's had a brilliant tournament again.
I think Brex has had a brilliant tournament.
But yeah, Hugh Jones has been good.
I'm consistently impressed with what Hugh Jones can do in that Scottish backline. As you said earlier, how exciting they are to watch. I think he plays a huge part in that, and quite often doesn't get the credit he deserves as well. So that's where I landed, but I'm not going to... I also wouldn't die on the hill around Brex either, because I also think the having a team of the tournament there that has Menoncello and Brex in it, that's a pretty feisty centre partnership that I'm not going to break up too much. But for the purposes of this podcast, I'm locking in Menoncello and Hugh Jones as the centre partnership.
Fair enough.
Now, back three. I'm pretty sure... I know...
Sewn up.
Yeah, left wing's pretty sewn up. It would be a pretty bold call for any of us to claim it wasn't a particular Frenchman.
Yeah, Louis Bielbarré. I made a note when I was watching the France-Scotland game. He is Olympics quick, isn't he? And on top of that, brave with the ball, and he's brave in defence, and he's so exciting. One of my moments of the tournament was his crossfield kick in his own 22 to Damien Penaud.
Yeah.
I just love watching him play.
Completely unnecessary, and I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. More unnecessary things, please, just for fun.
Yeah.
We're pro funsies.
We are pro funsies here, let that be known. On the other wing, I think it's very easy to go for the other winger / centre pair who also got a try in every single round of the tournament.
Yeah, I've gone with Tommy Freeman.
Yeah.
I think Darcy Graham had some really strong moments.
Yeah.
I think Ange Capozzo's been really good for Italy when he's got the ball. Suffered from being put on the wing rather than consistently at fullback. I think we saw against England why he's such a good fullback. Penaud's not had his best tournament.
No.
Mac Hansen had a really good game against Italy, but obviously hasn't played much of this tournament.
I feel James Lowe started strongly, but then kind of faded.
Yeah, obviously he missed last week, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, for me, Tommy Freeman's just really stepped up in this. I had plenty of conversations with people last year who were questioning Tommy Freeman in this side. I suspect he suffered in comparison to what Feo Bosa was doing. Really, is a player that is very exciting to watch and does lots of exciting things. I thought people were sleeping on how good Tommy Freeman was a little bit, and he's really shown up in what he can do in this tournament. You know, he's not just a try-scoring threat. He's such a weapon in all-round attack. He's so big. You know, I'm going to go back to it. He's so good in the air. His all-round skill set is really good, which is why he's stepping up to centre, I think, so easy for him. Massively impressed with him.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. That was my pick as well. Now, fullback, where did you land here?
Well, it was between two for me.
So I'm between two as well. Do you want to say both their names at the same time? 3, 2, 1. Kinghorn and Ramos?
Ramos.
Yes.
Yeah. It was between those two. I've landed on Kinghorn.
Okay.
Bit of a coin flip, really, for me. You can justify either of those in this tournament, and maybe this team should have more Frenchmen in it than it does, given they won it. But Kinghorn has taken the form that he's shown for Toulouse and where he's really improved for Toulouse and brought it to a Scotland team. You know, it wasn't that long ago that people were questioning whether Kinghorn was good enough for international rugby.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. People weren't really sure where he should play. Is he a winger? Is he a fly half? Is he a fullback? He's now a nailed-on Lions fullback for me. If he stays fit, he's one of the first names on the team sheet. Conor Ramos has been great for France. You know, his goal kicking is having that dependability is just so important for them. He's got, you know, he stepped up to fly half as well and performed really well there. He's such a sort of parochial player. He just does things that are fun to watch, the little offloads here and there. But Kinghorn just takes it for me for what he does in attack and some of those tries that he scores. Just, yeah, he's a player I really like.
Not going to disagree with you too much. Thomas Ramos, I think what he offers off the tee, you get from Finn Smith in this team anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Blair Kinghorn as well. So that's locked in. Back three. Louis Bielbarré, Tommy Freeman, Blair Kinghorn. I'm happy with that team.